Hey, TV lovers, welcome back to the Arrowverse podcast. I'm Jacob Bartley, your host, and I would like to thank you all for joining me again. And I would like to thank everyone for watching last week. I had like 43 views or something so far, and I know that's not a lot, but to me, that's amazing. So, thank you all so much. Thank you to the people who commented. Thank you to the person who gave me a dislike. I appreciate the fact that you took the time to listen in the first place. So, no worries there. I wish you would have told me what you didn't like about it so I can improve next time. But either way, thank you for watching. For those of you who don't know, this is my Arrow and Flash podcast where I review the episodes for the previous week of Arrow and Flash and then just talk about the universe as a whole. So this past week we had the Flash Season 2, Episode 2, titled The Flash of Two Worlds, and we had Arrow Season 4, Episode 2, titled The Candidate. Yes, The Candidate. So two pretty solid episodes. Actually, one really great episode and one pretty good episode. And we'll start with the really great one, which is the show I start with anyway because it airs first on Tuesdays, which is The Flash. So, with The Flash, where we left off last week, Jay Garrick shows up to Star Labs at the end. And for those of you who don't know, Jay Garrick is in the comics. He was the first Flash, if I'm not mistaken, and Barry kind of takes up his mantle later on in modern day. But in this Flash world, this Arrowverse, Jay Garrick is the Flash from Earth 2, which we're gonna start getting into multiple Earths with, the time warp opening at the end of season 1. So yeah, and that's right where this episode picks up with Jay Garrick introducing himself to the team and Barry being very reluctant. Reluctant isn't even the right word. Being very, he's scared to trust somebody again after the events that happened with Harrison Wells, and rightfully so. This guy Jay Garrick comes out of nowhere, and he kind of is going to play that mentor role that Harrison Wells played, but not without gaining Barry's trust first. And by the end of this episode, we see that he does gain Barry's trust. So that's awesome. And that's going to kick off my positives for this episode is Jay Garrick himself. I'm digging the character. I really liked him. I don't know the actor's name, but he did a very good job of portraying Jay Garrick. And I'm really looking forward to him mentoring Barry because I really enjoyed Harrison Wells mentoring Barry, but we as audience members knew that Harrison Wells was a bad guy, so there was something, off-putting, not off-putting, but, you know, whatever special moments we felt with Barry and Harrison Wells, that mentor relationship, we knew it wasn't good because Harrison Wells was evil and he's really Eobard Thawne, who's really the Reverse Flash who killed Barry's mother. So this is a different mentor relationship between Barry and Jay Garrick, and hopefully Jay Garrick's not a bad guy. We never know. He could be behind the scenes a bad guy, but as far as we know, he is a good guy, and I hope he stays that way. And I hope eventually so as far as we know, he doesn't have his powers since he came to Earth 1, which is the current universe Earth that we see every week with the Flash. So hopefully he gets his powers back and he can fight along Barry. That would be freaking awesome. Another positive I had for this Flash season 2 episode 2 was the way Sand Demon, the villain in the episode, the villain of the week this week, used his powers, and the visual effects that they used to show his powers was freaking. It looked amazing to me. It looked like the quality of a movie, honestly. So I really enjoyed the fight scenes between Barry and the Sand Demon. It looked incredible. Also, another positive, it's going to be a positive every week for me, is Cisco. He was freaking hilarious in this episode, just like he is in every episode. Couple lines that got me when he tells Jay, because Jay Garrick walks in and he's like, that's the Sand Demon. And Jay Garrick's not trying to name the villain. He's already named the Sand Villain, but we all know how Cisco names the villains and the heroes. Cisco was like, whoa, 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 that's my thing, but I like that one, so I'll let you have it. So that was a cool moment. The interactions between Cisco and uh, Dr. Stein was great. I'm really loving their relationship. It's another mentor relationship with them going on. They're kind of like the smartest guys in the room, and they build off each other. There's a lot of comedic relief with their characters and their interactions, so I really enjoyed that. And I really liked the plan that Barry and Jay developed in order to stop the Sand Demon. It was really well thought out, and it made sense to create a diversion for Sand Demon and in order to stop him. And I loved when Barry used that lightning move. He basically ran around really, really fast and then threw lightning at Sand Demon, and sand turns to glass when it's heated too much. So I really enjoyed that. I can't believe it's almost slipped my mind, but I got it here in my notes. Another huge positive for me is Patty Spivot. I was not really aware of this character before, but apparently she is one of Barry's main love interests in the comics. My friend, our other site member, Jake Berlin, who I'm waiting for you to get on this Arrowverse podcast, man. When are you going to get on? He told me that Patty Spivot is the Flash's main love interest, but as far as I knew, it's always been Iris West, as far as I've known. So if you guys are knowledgeable about that, please let me know in the comment section. Is Patty Spivot or Iris West Barry's main love interest in the comics? I would really like to know. I've tried to do some research, but it's not quite clear. But yeah, the actress playing Patty Spivot, Chantel Van Santant. I know I'm butchering her name, but she's so charming. I was trying to, because I knew I recognized her right from the beginning, and I looked up her IMDb page. She was actually in One Tree Hill, which I admittedly used to watch. She played Quinn James on that show, which was Haley's sister. And she was also in the last Final Destination movie, The Final Destination. So I'm really looking forward to her character and it looks like they might explore Barry and her having some type of romantic relationship. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also, a couple other little things. Caitlin was actually really funny in this episode. I thought she was great. She was really hilarious, and especially the moments with her crushing on Jay Garrick was hilarious. When Jay Garrick says, "I even offered, or I even let you guys give me a full body scan," which he probably got naked for, and Caitlin was like, "I was just being thorough." That was a great moment. She has her moments. I really like Caitlin. She's grown a lot since we first met her in the beginning of season 1. So, and a lot of people, could say that she's a throwaway character, but I don't think so. I think she has a very important role, and I know that I really enjoy her as a character. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up my positives. Oh, I had one more positive. Which is usually a negative for me, which is Iris. Up to this point, I had not really liked Iris at all, really. I think she's immature. I think she's unnecessary. She doesn't really serve her purpose. I think Barry's too good for her, honestly. But I realized what her role is. She is Barry's voice of reason. She's the one person that, no matter what, Barry's going to listen to. Because we all know, fans of this show who've been watching, Barry is a stubborn man. When he has his mindset on one thing, he only sees it that way. And Iris is the one who can crack that and get into Barry's head and talk some sense into him, even when someone like Joe West can't. So Iris is slowly growing on me. So yeah, that's gonna do it for my positives. Only a few negatives, surprisingly not. I love this show. This show is incredible. I rarely have negatives for it, but there's always something. So while I said I liked the villain's powers, Sand Demon's powers, I didn't like Sand Demon himself. The actor was just way over the top. It's just like a villain, and I'm sick of these. They do the same thing in Arrow, like the villain of the week. But I will give them credit because they found a way for the villain not to just pop up randomly in season 2 so far. Same with Atom Smasher or Crusher from episode 1. Zoom is bringing them from Earth 2 and having them kill Barry in order for them to get home. So they actually have a purpose for being there, which is a good thing. But overall, I didn't really like the portrayal when San Demon was a human, but I really loved his powers. So, half and half on that. And when I first met Patty Spivot, or when Patty Spivot was first introduced to us as audience members, she was a little too over the top with her bubbly outgoingness, like smiling all in your face, and it seemed a little cheesy and forced to me. But as the episode progressed and I got to know her more, and we find out her real motivation for being there and wanting to join Joe's task force, she is a great character so far, and she's drop dead gorgeous, by the way. She's adorable. So, but I still think that when they first introduced her, it came on way too strong. So they should have. I wish they would have toned it down a little bit with her introduction. And just one more negative for the Flash, season 2, episode 2. Just the whole alternate worlds in general thing, I'm really concerned with, because it just means anytime any character dies, they're not really dead. They can come back, or they exist in another world. So no matter what, no matter who dies, they can come back. So to me, that takes away the risks, that takes away the danger, the excitement of these action scenes when one of these characters could die. I want them to introduce something to where it limits them from being able to go back in time and save someone, or go to another world and bring that version back. I wish there were some limitations, and I think there will be, but so far we don't really know what those are. So yeah, episode as a whole, I loved it. Both the season premiere and season 2, episode 2 of Flash are very strong. I'm really happy with this, and I say with confidence that The Flash is my favorite show on TV. Period. I mean, it's hard to say. I love Arrow also, but season 3 and even season 4 are nowhere near as strong as season 1 and 2 of Arrow, or season 1 or 2 of Flash so far. So, and I love shows like Game of Thrones, but The Flash is my favorite show on television right now, hands down. I love it all around, and this episode proved that to me again, that this show is great and it's here to stay. Alright, moving on to my review of Arrow Season 4, Episode 2, titled The Candidate. What does The Candidate mean? I don't know. No, I do know, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, starting with my positives, well, let's talk about a little bit where we pick up from this episode. So last week we saw Arrow, Oliver, and Felicity return to Star City. Diggle and Oliver are still having their troubles. Diggle doesn't trust Oliver still, and that carried in a little bit into this episode, but not as much. So we basically start off having the team back together. Oliver, Thea, Laurel, Diggle, and Felicity. Roy Harper's out of town after, faking his death as the Arrow, so no Roy Harper, which I'm a little disappointed about. I know a lot of people don't like Roy Harper, but he grew on me a lot. But anyways, that's a different subject. But so yeah, we jump back in, Team Arrow's back to work. Felicity's, on the computer. Everyone's out on the field. And, to start off right from the bat, my positives start with Felicity. Just like Cisco, she is so funny, and she is the comedic relief for this show. And I realized something, that Cisco and Felicity kind of serve the same purpose on their respective shows. They're the comedic relief. They're pretty much the smartest person on their team. So I see the parallels with their characters, and I really enjoy. They're both two of my favorite characters on each show. So yeah, and another positive I had is that Oliver, in the flashback scenes, he's back on the island. When this show was thriving and when it was at its best in season 2 and even season 1 is when Oliver was on the island. I think it's called Lian Yu. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comment sections. It's something like that. But he's back on the island, and Amanda Waller of Argus sent him there for some reason, and there's some type of military there, and they're gonna keep him there and have him, basically the general of that whatever military operation is going on there is putting Oliver on his team because he realizes how useful Oliver can be, because he's up to this point he's had a lot of training and a lot of been through a lot and has gained a lot of experience. So this general realizes he can use Oliver Queen, and he recognizes Oliver Queen for the rich boy he is back at home and who went missing. So I'm just really glad to see Oliver back in the island. I the flashbacks from last season were all right, so I'm looking for those to improve, and I'm really glad that he's back there. So let's talk about the title of the episode for a little bit, The Candidate. What does that mean? For those of you who don't know, at the end of the episode, well, you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't watched the episode. Spoilers, by the way. But Oliver is going to be running for mayor. And there's a few reasons why I like this, but three main ones. Number one, it's a huge Easter egg from the comics. In one of, I don't know if it's more than one, but at least one of the comic book storylines of Green Arrow in the comics, Oliver is the mayor and Green Arrow at the same time, and he's the mayor during the day and then fighting crime at night. So we're gonna get a little bit of that, and it's, again, this show, both Arrow and the Flash, they dedicate so much to the fans, and I really love that. And I'm not a comic book expert at all, but I appreciate that they care about the source material and that they call back to it constantly with multiple things. Another reason I really like Oliver running for mayor is the way they set it up, because you have the woman, I forget her name, but Moira's friend, Oliver's mom's friend, who comes back to town and wants to run for mayor, and the show did a great job of showing us how dangerous it is for this city. 2 or 3 mayors have died already. Nobody wants to run for mayor. They currently don't have a mayor. So this lady steps up and wants to run for mayor, but then her daughter gets put in danger. She gets put in danger multiple times, so she backs out. She's not willing to risk her family. And Officer Lance, or Detective Lance, I think he's the sergeant now or something. He's constantly on Oliver because he knows Oliver's the Green Arrow, so he's on Oliver about ever since you came here. You've caused havoc to the city, and what are you gonna do different? How are you gonna help the city? And Lance tells him it doesn't need somebody hiding at night protecting it. It needs someone to stand up and in the light protect it. And this is when Oliver realizes it, and he tells Felicity at the end that he wants to run for mayor. And I just thought the way they set that up was beautiful. This is what I'm talking about, how this episode was a huge improvement from last episode, and just the way this season is going, it looks like it's a huge improvement from season 3, which was the weakest of the Arrow seasons in my opinion. And the last reason why I really enjoy this Oliver running for mayor is because it's going to give Oliver a purpose other than being Arrow. Because one thing that I noticed that bothered me even in all the seasons is that all Oliver does is fight crime as Arrow. And lately we've seen him, he's with Felicity now, and that you can see it in him that makes him really happy. And now he's gonna have a purpose other than being Arrow. He's Felicity's boyfriend, and he gets to be the mayor. So I'm excited to see Oliver's character develop more and have a purpose outside of being Arrow, because I love his character. Stephen Amell's a great actor. He improves every season, and Oliver is, even though I love Barry Allen, I love Cisco, I love Felicity and Diggle, Arrow, Oliver Queen is the man. He is my favorite character in this whole universe. So I'm so glad to see him have a bigger purpose. Another positive I have is, so for those of you who saw The Legend of Tomorrow, which is the upcoming team up show coming from CW and DC, we know that Sarah Lance is coming back, and I knew it was going to be in the Lazarus Pit because we see her emerge from the Lazarus Pit in the trailer, but I was wondering how she ends up there and how they're going to go about it. Is it going to be cheesy? But I love the way they set this up. So we all know Thea came out of the Lazarus Pit after Ra's al Ghul killed her. Oliver took her to the Lazarus Pit, and we know that once you come out of the Lazarus Pit, you're never the same. You you know you're mentally messed up, and it might not show at first, but you know we get glimpses of it, and we're starting to see that from Thea, which is pretty cool, and I love the problems it's causing between her and Oliver, but I'll get to that in a second. But once Laurel finds out that the Lazarus Pit exists, she talks with Thea like what happened, and Thea tells her, and then Thea says something along the lines of, you know, Oliver would have done anything to save me, and then Laurel's like, of course he would do anything to save his sister, and something clicks in her head that she knows what she has to do. She's obsessed with the loss of her sister, and rightfully so. It's, you know, it's her sister, so Laurel realizes is gonna be the one, and she literally digs up Sarah's body and is gonna take her to Nanda Parbat, and I think it gives the show so much depth, because it makes me like Laurel more, because even though it might not be the smartest thing to do, dig her up when she's been dead for so long and take her to the Lazarus Pit, it just shows how passionate she is about her love for her sister and her family. So kudos to the show for doing that, and it's actually making me like Laurel more. So, but I still have my doubts about Laurel, but I'll get to that in my negatives. One last positive regarding Oliver and Thea. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I like that we're starting to see the consequences of Thea being dipped in the Lazarus Pit and being brought back to life, and Oliver is going to have to deal with those consequences, and he is. So Thea's kind of reacting violently and like physically, unnecessarily hurting these criminals and almost killing them. And, you know, it happens a few times, and Oliver, you know, tells her to stop doing it, and then she lights a guy on fire in this episode, which was crazy. And then Oliver finally puts her in her place and pushes her around and tells her what's up, and tells her, you need to stop or I'm gonna basically whoop your butt. And, you know, they had a little scuffle in the Arrow Cave, and I'm really digging their, you know, their back and forth as far as, oh, excuse me, probably sounds like crap I just bumped my mics together. But yeah, I'm really liking the direction they're taking Oliver and Thea's relationship. So, now moving on to my negatives, and I'll start with Laurel. I still don't buy Laurel fighting at all. Even though she got trained a little bit by Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and she got trained by that one guy who was a vigilante, I forget his name, and she's been trained by Arrow a little bit, and who knows what she's been up to these past 6 months, you know, during when the show wasn't airing. But I can't, it doesn't help the fact that when I see her out there fighting, I can't take her seriously. So that's going to be a negative for me until they find a way to fix it. Another negative I had was I felt like there was way too much focus on Felicity running the company, running Palmer Tech. I want to focus on Oliver and Team Arrow and the action and what's going on between Arrow and Felicity and Arrow and Diggle and Arrow and Thea. I don't really care about Felicity taking over Palmer Tech, but if it's gonna have a strong influence on the rest of the story, then I'm all for it. For instance, we get introduced to another comic book character, Mr. Terrific. His real name, not the actor, but the Curtis Holt is the character name, and he becomes Mr. Terrific in the comics, who is basically, I did a little bit of research, but he's basically one of the smartest mans in the DC universe, one of the smartest people in the DC universe, and he creates these things called the T-balls. I think they're called the T-balls or something like that. And let me look this up real quick. Yeah, he has, and they mention this world-changing technology that he creates, and it's and I didn't mind that his character at all. He was actually pretty awesome, but I just didn't like that they focused so much on Felicity taking over the company. Oh, T-spheres. Okay, they're called T-spheres, and I have a feeling that a Felicity taking over the company is going to have something to do with the return of Ray Palmer, who we know is not dead because he's going to be back in Legends of Tomorrow. Maybe it's a different timeline or something. We don't know. But when his building blew up at the end of season 3, the obvious speculation is that he shrunk. So he's just a little small guy somewhere around there, and maybe Mr. Terrific can help find him. So if that's the reason why they're focusing so much on Felicity taking over the company, then I'm cool with it. But other than that, I don't want half the episode to be Felicity running Palmer Tech. Just no. That was one of my negatives. Another thing similar to the Flash, the villain of the week, Anarchy. Although they found another purpose for Damien Dark, sending him after Arrow and after the woman who's running for mayor, I still too over the top, too wahahaha. Like they need to improve these villains of the week. I want somebody who's like a real person, not somebody who's just evil and wants to kill everyone, which is the vibe I get from all these people. And one huge negative for me is Lance. Why is he such a douche to Oliver? So in his mind, everything that has happened, including probably the death of Sarah and Laurel becoming a vigilante, is he blames Oliver. But Oliver has done so much good. So in my eyes, Lance is totally being immature, and no one is that stubborn, and he's just way too stubborn, and he's very narrow-sighted, and he only sees things his way. So one of the things that I loved about Arrow, specifically in season 2, is when Lance and Arrow were working together. Those were some of the best moments in the entire show. It reminded me of Batman and Commissioner Gordon. So I wish they could get back to that. Yeah, and that's pretty much all my negatives. So overall, I actually really liked this episode. I think Arrow season 4 is going to be an improvement from season 3 if it goes this direction that it's headed. And other than those negatives that I mentioned, I really enjoyed the episode. All right, now moving on to the last segment that I like to do, where I just discuss the universe as a whole and what do I think's coming and how I think everything's going to tie in together going forward. So I'm going to start there. Usually there's some crossovers and references in the episodes, but the only thing that I noticed in these 2 episodes was on The Flash when Cisco and a couple other people are watching TV, then the Arrow announcement of him being Green Arrow is on TV. So that was pretty cool, and Cisco had a hilarious line. So calling back to how he names the heroes and the villains, Oliver's on screen, I am the Green Arrow, and Cisco's like, I hate it when they put colors in their names. So that was pretty awesome. And a huge thing is, who is Zoom? Who is Zoom? That's the big question, because there's a few options for this. One, he could just be a brand new character that we haven't met yet. 2, he can be a character that we know from Earth 1 in The Flash, but he's a different version of that character in Earth 2, so it can pretty much be anybody. It could be Eddie, it could be Barry himself, it could be Joe West, it could be Cisco for all we know. Zoom can literally be anybody. So that's something that everyone's going to be keeping their eye on going forward with The Flash. But if I had to put money on it, I would either say that he's a brand new character that we haven't met yet, or he's Harrison Wells from Earth 2, or he's Eddie from Earth 2. So those are my speculations as far as Zoom. And another thing from The Flash, Iris's mom shows up at the end. Joe's ex-wife, I'm assuming. It's weird because Harrison Wells mentions her in season 1, and he tells Joe, we both know the loss of losing the love of our lives, and one would assume that she's dead, but apparently she's not dead, and she's back in Central City. So I'm curious to see what her motivations are and why she's there. They kind of left it on a cliffhanger with that. And yeah, we got to see Harrison Wells again, which is awesome. That actor is incredible as Harrison Wells. I was hesitant when I realized that he wasn't going to be in season 2, but then we find out he is going to be in season 2 in some capacity. We saw him in the video in episode 1, and now at the very last scene, it was kind of like an after credit scene in a movie. We see a futuristic world, and it looked like it was either in the future or it was in another Earth. So probably Earth 2, where Harrison Wells could possibly still be alive, and he was alive and well, and there was an employee at Star Labs giving a tour to these kids, and he steps out of the elevator and he's like, "Hello, kids," and the voice he does, he's incredible. So, but what does this mean? I'm guessing that he is Zoom from Earth 2. I mean, maybe that's too obvious, but that's my guess. So now, going to Arrow. So obviously a huge thing is Oliver running for mayor. Now I'm curious: is he just gonna become mayor right away, or is someone gonna challenge him? Because either maybe someone's like, "Wait, Oliver Queen can't be mayor. I'm gonna run against him," or Oliver Queen starts running for mayor, and Damien Dark tries to kill him, and he realizes Oliver Queen can take care of himself, or that he's the Arrow, and then Damien Dark sets up a situation where somebody's working for him running for mayor, or one of his close guys are running for mayor, or he runs for mayor. Who knows? I think it would be very interesting, especially in a procedural show, to have a campaign go on all season. Why not? That would be pretty cool. And see Oliver Queen get in some political debates. I think that would be awesome. And so obviously we're going to see Laurel and Thea go to Nanda Parbat to resurrect Sarah, but a few things are going to come of this. Hopefully we're going to see Malcolm Merlyn again. Hopefully, not hopefully, but we're going to see Thea try to, get help with her side effects of the Lazarus Pit. And I hope we get Sarah back sooner than people would think. I heard some people online speculating that won't be till mid-season, but I'm sure I could look up online when Katie Lotz, the actress, is going to be on Arrow again, but I don't want to ruin that for myself, so I'm just going to wait and see. But I'm hoping it's in like the next 2 episodes, because I honestly, man, it's hard to say. There's so many great characters on Arrow, but after Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle, Sarah was one of my favorite characters, and Katie Lotz is one of the hottest women on this earth, in my opinion. She is gorgeous and so hot, man. I can't say it enough. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens on Nanda Parbat. And to close things out, I just wanted to talk about a little article that I found on ScreenRant.com. Great site, by the way. My favorite site for movie news and TV news. There was a so this past New York Comic Con, it was last week. I believe Screen Rant. I don't know if they. Yeah. Screen Rant went to New York Comic Con, and they spoke to one of the producers on Legend of Tomorrow, Phil Klemmer, and they asked him about the rules of time travel and what it means if somebody dies. And this will tie in back to my concern about the Flash and the multiple universes. So this is what he had to say. I'm going to kind of paraphrase this, but they asked him about the rules of time travel, and if someone dies, can they go back and save them? So he said, no, death means death. If you lose that, you get a kind of get out of jail free card. We do construct the rule on our show that if you kill me right now with a hatchet, the rest of the team can't just go on for a show and then go back in time and stop you from hitting me with the hatchet. Our rule is that when you try to interfere in events that you participated in, that creates a time paradox, and black holes and horrible things happen. This is incredible news for me, because what did I say earlier? I'm worried that with these multiple universes and time travel, that there's going to be no risk and anyone who dies can come back. And I don't like that. Then there's no danger involved. This is awesome, at least for Legends of Tomorrow, that they can't just go back in time and fix everything and save everyone from dying. So thanks to Screen Rant for that article. I was very pleased to hear that news. So let me know what you guys think. Are you happy to hear that? Are you happy to hear that they can't just go back and save anyone? Of course you want your favorite characters to be safe, but I think it makes the show way more exciting if there's an actual threat, and if someone dies, they stay dead. Even though the Lazarus Pit exists, Barry can travel back in time. The Legend of Tomorrow characters can travel back in time with Rip Hunter and the Time Machine. So we'll see. Anyone could always come back in this universe, but I'm glad to hear that the producers of the shows are aware of it and are going to try to limit that from happening. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for my Arrowverse podcast, where I review The Flash, Arrow, and talk about everything going on in this universe. Again, I love these shows, and I'm very excited to talk about them with all of you. Thank you all for listening again. I'm Jacob Bartley, the host of the MTE Movie News Show and all the MTE podcasts, but we are switching to Apocalypse Movies this week. That's going to be our name. You could already see it on our site, our Twitter, our Facebook. Last thing I'm going to change, I'm going to put out an announcement video on YouTube pretty soon, and we're going to be Apocalypse Movies. So from this point on, I'm going to be the host of the Apocalypse podcast. So awesome. Can't wait. Me, Gio Ramos, Jake Berlin. It's going to be nothing but good to come from now on. And please let me know in the comment section, first of all, what you thought of Flash, this episode of The Flash, and what you speculate to come. Let me know what you thought of this episode of Arrow and what you speculate to come. And let me know what you think about that news regarding Legends of Tomorrow. Not really news, but just those comments from the Phil Klemmer. So, and also, it would really help me. Let me know how the quality of this video is regarding the technical stuff, like the camera, the mic, my presentation, and my speech. And let me know what I can do better. Let me know what I'm doing right so I can feel better about myself when I do these. I would really appreciate some constructive criticism. I'm not afraid to take on criticism. I think it's a great thing, and because I want to improve and I want to get better at this. So please, I would appreciate it if you help me. And of course, you can find our site from now on, apocalypsemovies.com. You can find us on Twitter, Apocalypse Movies, on Facebook, Apocalypse Movies, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you are, hit that like button. And thank you all again. I will see you next week.